Good morning, everybody. If everyone would stand, we'll start our program off with the national anthem. Again, welcome everybody. What a marvelous day to cut a ribbon. My name is Terry Russell. I'm the chair of the Monomoy Regional School Committee. I'd like to recognize and thank several faithful navigators who over the past several years laid the groundwork and created the vision that would take seed as the Monomoy promise. Our former superintendents from Chatham and Harwich, Dr. Mary Ann Lanzo. Mary Ann. Mr. Mike Radone. Dr. Carolyn Cragen. And our newest superintendent, Mr. Scott Carpenter. See what building projects do to superintendents? I'd also like to introduce you our Monomoy Regional School Committee members. From Chatham, Nancy Scott. Steve Duvall. Glenn Bryant. Former members Jeff Dykins, Diane Nash, and the late Ann Haggerty. Those eight, a dedicated team that has turned town rivals into a school of sharks. That was a laugh point. Thank you. Someone. Yeah, you'll have your turn. Someone once said, something in all of our lives happened exactly once. A birth of a child, a birth of a new school. This celebration, this ribbon cutting, is one of those singular, magical moments for the Chatham and Harwich communities. I recall a humorous story. Why? Because that's what it says here. Told to me by my fourth grade grandson, Declan Russell. Little fellow goes into a primary care doctor's office and says, "Doctor, I need help. I need desperately and quickly. I am shrinking and shrinking before my eyes." The primary care doctor looked up. The fellow said, "Can you help me?" The doctor got out of the desk and walked around and said, "Yes, I can, but you've got to be a little patient." There's no need for the O's. For the past 50 plus years, the supporters of school regionalization waited patiently for the right moment. Their patience paid off. Unsung heroes. 15 months ago, during our groundbreaking ceremony, Dr. Cragen invited dozens of Monomoy kindergartners through 12th grade students from both towns to break ground in their own backyards, gather home soil, and bring that soil to this construction site. This symbolic act of mixing their home soil with the soil of their future school laid the foundation for the promise of Monomoy. This mixing of soil would not only create a schoolhouse, but also a second home for all the future families of Chatham and Harwich. Seed soil from the homes of both communities to symbolically strengthen this Monomoy foundation. Look what has grown and sprouted from the seed of an idea. We celebrate ribbon cutting. We also celebrate this moment when we turn over this schoolhouse to our new principal, Bill Burkhead, and his capable and caring staff who will set a tone to create a culture of high expectation and academic challenges for current and future Monomoy students. So with a great deal of gratitude, pride, and high hopes for the future, we welcome all our learners, young and old, to their new 21st century second home. Speaking of faithful navigators, I'd like to introduce two of our co-chairs of our building committee who faithfully, for over 15 months, steered us in the right direction through passion and vision into this project. Bringing this project in under budget, with quality. When you have a moment to walk through the school, you'll see so many wow things to cause these kids to be excited about their second home. David Whitcomb from Chatham, Ed McManus from Harwich.
Over the 15 months that we've been in this endeavor as co-chairs, actually it's longer than that.
Seems like a long time, man.
We've done this sort of tag team routine at the podium. I guess a way of getting involved in this this project, when my family and I first moved to Harwich in 2000, we moved from California primarily because our daughters were coming of age, heading into middle school, and we were looking for a better education for them. And we found that here in Harwich. As they got into the high school years, I became aware of some of the deficiencies in our high school, and when I was elected a selectman in 2004, that summer after one of the first projects, I met with a couple of the school committee members and fellow selectmen, and then Superintendent Rosemary Joseph, and we started talking about what needed to be done to fix up or to make Harwich High School provide the type of education we needed for our children. And over the years, we formed a committee, a building needs committee, which studied the issue and brought us to the point of realizing that Harwich couldn't do it as its own, that we needed a partner. The partner turned out to be Chatham, and we had a lot of meetings back and forth involving selectmen and school committee members from each town, and here we are. There's a lot along the way, and Dave and I are going to recognize some people that helped to get us here.
Thanks, Ed. I would just like to say a few words first. This is a great day for Chatham and Harwich. We gathered together to dedicate and celebrate the opening of this extraordinary facility. Let this building stand as a monument to the commitment by our two communities to educate future generations of students. Monomoy High School will allow us to expand educational opportunities we could not have supported as individual school districts. So on behalf of the Monomoy Regional High School Building Committee, I'd like to, although their names are in the program, I'd like to recognize the school building committee members from Chatham. You couldn't hear any of that?
Yeah, we heard.
So I'd first like to recognize Bill Bystrom, who I believe is over here somewhere. Bill, please raise your hand. Jim Blanchfield. Steve Latinowich isn't actually a Chatham guy, but we claim him on the school committee. Paul Vangelinks, our former principal of Chatham High School. Mike Ruby. Nancy Scott. Chris Cannon. And last but not least, Greg Vogt.
Making up the Harwich contingent on the building committee, we have Dr. Carla Blanchard, Joan Goggin, Ed Jaworski, David Moran, Alan Thompson, Leslie Schneeberger, Peter Wall, and Bruce Young from the fire department. A couple of people that really weren't of either towns, but were very important in the process was former principal of Harwich High School, Kevin Turner, and our business manager, Kathleen Isernio. And one person who's no longer with us, but played an immense role in making sure that we understood the ramifications of hiring project managers and getting the best we could, was Ray Jefferson. Over the years, over the time we've been doing the building here, I've had the pleasure of doing little video tours of it as we went through in construction with Jamie and the crew from Channel 18. Those were fun to do, but I think the one tour that we did was the most fun and the most rewarding and explained why we were doing it was the day that we finally brought some of the students from Chatham High School and Harwich High School to see the progress of the building. And they walked around and looked and were so amazed. And I think the article that Doug Fraser wrote in the Cape Cod Times said it best, his opening words, "The kids get it."
I'd like to thank a few people. This was a true partnership by our two communities as well as our architects, builders, and OPMs. From Chatham, I'd like to give special thanks to Board of Selectmen members Florence Selden and Len Sussman, and to the Finance Committee member Roz Coleman. Without their leadership, I'm not so sure that Chatham would be here today. Mount Vernon Group is our architect, and the principal designer in that group is Dennis Daly, whose model that you see here today. And I hope when you get a chance, when we finish speaking, soon hopefully, you'll take a look at this building, because it truly is extraordinary. And it came from Dennis's model. Kevin Dorr was their project manager, and Kevin, more often than not, was between a rock and a hard place in trying to get this building done. Our contractors was the Fontaine brothers. You're familiar with the Fontaine Medical Center. They come from there. They're a Western Massachusetts group. In their website, they advertise that they build from Western Massachusetts to Boston, and now I hope they'll include Cape Cod, because this truly is a magnificent building. Jim Maurer was our project manager, and Glenn Callahan was our superintendent. And Glenn is a resident of Harwich, and I think we've taken so much out of him after this job that he's going to be a permanent resident of Harwich after this is completed. And finally, Skanska, our OPM, recognized Jerry Albert, our day-to-day guy in here that always had a smile on his face no matter how much needed to be done.
Who also is a resident of Harwich. He bought a house here.
Mike Morrison, who if they don't recognize his value, if Skanska doesn't recognize his value and make him a a project manager very soon. I hope somebody else does. And last but not least, Dan Tavares. We would not be here today without Dan Tavares. He is an extraordinary human being. He took the completionist of this building and the quality of this building to bed with him every night, and we owe him a great deal of gratitude. Thank you.
And as part of the team in Harwich, because we had started somewhat before, there's a couple of other people in town I'd like to recognize. One, I mentioned the Building Needs Committee, and there were a number of members of that. We started meeting, I believe, in 2006, and went and met up until the point where we put in our application at MSBA and started down the road of regionalizing. And those members are Mary Clark, Deborah Donovan, Leslie Flynn, Dennis Hoy, Tom Johnson, Robert Larson, Brenda Norcott, Tom Blute, Carla Blanchard, Jack Brown, and Alan Thompson, who chaired that committee magnificently. As we went to the votes in both towns, it was based on the work of a regionalization study committee from Harwich. Those members were Jack Brown, Tom Blute, and Bonnie Liddell, who represented Harwich well, and I think were instrumental in bringing us into partnership with our neighbors in Chatham. The other partners that we picked up along the way are sort of important because they decided to put up about half the money to build this building, and that's the Massachusetts School Building Authority. Project manager from that effort was Greg Grinnell. His boss, Jack McCarthy, who is the executive director of the School Building Authority, and his boss, who is the chair of the School Building Authority and state treasurer, Steve Grossman. They were instrumental as we moved through the process of applying for funding and doing our regionalization effort. All of them, from Greg to Jack to Steve Grossman. If you had a problem, you picked up a phone, you called them, and they answered it, and they took care of your problem. They were a magnificent partner to have as we went through this.
So I'd like to ask Alan Thompson to come up to the microphone now and talk about the history of how we got here. Alan?
I too am enjoying this moment to the utmost. You can't believe how much all this means to me. And the amount of time that all have put in. What I'd like to do is start out by sharing with you a paragraph from previous days, and I'll elaborate on it when I complete. This part of this 5-page report said, some people seem to feel that regional high schools are gilded palaces in which education of the most expensive kind goes on. This is, of course, a most erroneous idea. On the contrary, one of the two reasons the regional school idea was approved by the legislature was to save the taxpayers money. It was designed to prevent small communities from spending large sums of money on small and inefficient schools. It was to encourage such communities to pool their resources with their neighbors and build larger schools most economically and better education. It is the most unanimous opinion of persons engaged in education that regional schools are educationally better, cheaper per pupil to build, and cheaper to operate. It is a matter of public record that last year, of the 13 regional schools, high schools, listing cost, only one was higher than Harwich. A comparison of actual building costs in recent years of communities regionalizing and those not regionalizing show the economical nature of the regional school. Of the two great advantages derived from regionalizing, that of improvement of curriculum and instruction by going from small school to a larger one is far more important than the other, that of savings in dollars, although it is very important. And in closing his comments, in the near future, the citizens of Harwich will be called upon to vote for or against forming a regional school district with Chatham. I sincerely believe that this is the most important decision in regard to schools in the history of the community. I sincerely feel that if this project is defeated, it will be a great tragedy to the children of this town and succeeding generations. That was written by Jesse J. Morgan, who was the superintendent, and that was written in 1959 in the annual town report of the town of Harwich. So, was he far off? So as I move forward, I'd like to share with you a chronicle of events as to just how far we've come. You're going to really appreciate that. From 1903 to 1968, Chatham and Harwich shared the same superintendent. Mind you, shared the same superintendent and 6 employees. How about that? So, to give you an idea of the whole expanse of regionalization, and you'll understand this whole thing as we move ahead. Harwich asked Dennis Yarmouth to regionalize. Dennis Yarmouth said no. That was in 1954. In 1956, Harwich asked Eastham, Orleans, and Wellfleet to regionalize, and they all said no. In 1960, Harwich Town Meeting said yes to regionalization with Chatham, but guess what? Chatham said no. In 1968, Harwich asked Brewster to regionalize, and they said no. From 1971 to 1979, Harwich and Chatham discussed regionalization. So you can see it's a pretty in-depth process here. A study was prepared by the State Department of Education, but it didn't make it to town meeting. So, 1986, Harwich asked Chatham to regionalize, and Chatham said no. In 1992, Chatham asked Harwich to regionalize, and Harwich said no. So then in 2010, you really get the idea. Before I get into 2010, Harwich definitely was in between a rock and a hard place, they say, or a bad building and no place to go. But let me just run down a little of the events. I'm just going to hit the highlights, but it's more in depth than you can ever imagine. On May 2006, the annual town meeting authorized the Board of Selectmen to appoint a school building needs committee. On June the 1st, 2006, MSBA came down to look, and they sent their final report to the school district that Harwich High School was classified as a Category 4 building in need of substantial work. Wow. So we're taking care of that now, as you see out front. March 2007, a New England Association of Schools and Colleges paid us a visit and looked us over. June 21st, 2007, the School Building Needs Committee held its first meeting. July 31st, we filed a statement of interest with MSBA. In October 2007, New England Association of Schools and Colleges put Harwich on warning status for the standards of curriculum and community resources for learning. In other words, your school stinks, you need to do something. In November of 2007, MSBA board approves designated priority listing Harwich as a regional assessment. In other words, go find yourself a partner before we fund you. We're not funding a single high school. Then, on March 11, 2009, the School Building Needs Committee issued our final report that a regional discussion should move forward with Chatham. Knowing its past history, we figured it would be an overwhelming task to accomplish. That's 21 months we spent at that. So with that, I want to go on. I know the School Building Needs Committee members were commented about, but I have a special place for them because of the tasks that took place that brought us here today. I was the fortunate guy to chair that committee. I don't know how, but either they had a weak moment or whatever, but they picked me as their chair. The guy, each person brought to the table some incredible credentials and were good, great players. The first of that was Dr. Robert Larson, who lives in Harwich, and he served as our clerk or secretary, and he kind of critiqued my speeches and things of that nature. He was a retired professor from the University of Vermont. Dr. Larson has written 2 books for educators in the changing ways and patterns of education today. He's a real detailed guy, and believe me, I'm sorry he's not here today because he really wanted to be here in a bad way. Dr. Carla Blanchard, she's a high school educator. She was doing foreign languages at the time, and currently she serves as the director of curriculum for the Monomoy region. Great lady. Mary Clark, she was on the school council and a parent, and she was a no-nonsense lady. You should have heard her in some of the public meetings. Dr. Carolyn Cragen, she's a real the iron of this committee. You know, life presents us with some real complex problems, such as MSBA's idea of regionalizing with Chatham. Great idea. Well, here's a lady, undaunted by the challenge, she charged ahead to where we are today with a regional high school. She was the right person at the right time and in the right place. Thank you, Carol. Then we had Gary Constant. Gary was here for many years as our school business manager. Gary was a first-class gentleman, and he brought to the table a lot of history, a lot of ways of knowing the state ways as dealing with the state on a daily basis in school assistance and funding and Chapter 70 and all the other chapters. And he left, I believe he's in Plymouth, but we had Joel Dickerson who replaced Gary. And then we had Deb Donovan. She was a high school educator, a parent, and also a great contributor. You know, she had her ideas of how it should look and how it should go, and didn't hold back. Leslie Flynn, she's a nurse at the Cape Cod Hospital, a parent, and again, a great number. You know, none of these folks held back. Dennis Hoy, who's a manager of Cranberry Valley Golf Course and a parent. You could see the excitement growing on his face about the new school for his kids. It was just, oh boy, let's get this going. And then Tom Johnson, he's a retired educator, advisor, taxpayer. Tom was a fantastic contributor to the committee, plus the regionalization. And again, he knew what it was like going through the processes. Brenda Norcott, she's a firefighter, a medic, and a parent. And Brenda was excited about the direction. But Brenda was also concerned about the issues that were inside of the Harwich High School building. You know, no sprinkler system, you know, issues of that nature and the condition of the building. And then there's Terry Russell. As you've already heard from Terry, and he's a retired principal from the Barnstable school system. Terry is a parent whose children graduated from Harwich High. He's a grandfather whose children will be attending. He had so much to offer, even bits of wisdom, which you've already experienced. Terry is a member of the building committee. He's an elected member of the Monomoy Regional School Committee. And Terry is like a rainstorm. It just keeps on blowing. In case you don't know what I mean by that, you know, it just keeps going. Great guy. I'm having fun. Kevin Turner, again, he was mentioned, and Kevin, who just, I mean, he was really, I just can't describe, but anything that came up, there was so many tasks, regardless of what they were, he helped to make this all possible. So, and lastly, on the committee, Ed McManus, he was the Board of Selectmen's liaison. Ed got the bug real bad, working through all the regional issues. He signed up for the building committee, and the committee roped him and David Whitcomb to be chairs for the building committee. And on that, I wanted to share another piece of history with you, and I think you'll find this interesting. This may well be recorded as an outstanding milestone in the school history of the town. The facilities offered in the new high school building are much appreciated by the school and the public. All classrooms are light, attractive, well-heated, ventilated, as well as practical in finish and arrangement. Each room is provided with an electric clock, a house telephone, an amplifier which is connected with the central sound system of the building. This may be used for announcements, radio programs, or reproduction of recorded programs. The program may be made available to all rooms at the same time or in any one room alone. That was the words of Principal Paul Morris when he moved into 1937 high school up on Sicily. And on that note, and closing, my hopes are that the Monomoy Regional School High School Principal, Mr. Bill Burkhead, will report some outstanding features in the new regional high school so that some young person like me reading his report would be amazed at how much progress has been made in the next 75 years. Thank you. David?
There's some concern that maybe it's too hot out here. Does anyone want to move this to the new high school auditorium, or are you okay out there?
Yeah.
That was a yes?
Yes.
Okay, the auditorium it is. Do the ribbon cutting a little earlier. On the microphone and say it.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, play a pair of scissors. 1, 2, 3, cut. The auditorium for the last stop on the tour because of its magnificence, but this is as good use as any to start it off. So. Continuing with the history, Chatham's history briefly, Al Thompson and I ran into each other at Pates somewhere between Christmas and New Year's in 2007, and Al said to me, after being on the Building Needs Committee in Harwich for many years, what do you think about regionalization? And I said, Al, I think it's a good idea, but I don't know if it's going to work. We'll give it a try. And so we began. We got a letter from the Harwich Board of Selectmen and the Harwich School Committee in February of 2008, sent to the Chairman of the Board of Selectmen and the Chairman of the School Committee, Jeff Dykins, inquiring of our interest. We sent a letter back saying that we had interest in seeing how regionalization could enhance the educational opportunities of Chatham. And that was signed by Dr. Marianne Lanzo, Jeff Dykins, our town manager at the time, Bill Hinchy, and myself. And so the process began. The first meeting was with Jeff Dykins, Dr. Lanzo, and myself from Chatham, and Tom Blute, Robin Wilkins, and Dr. Cragen from Harwich. And that started a year of meetings, and and discussions that resulted in a regional planning vote at each of our town meetings, forming a regional planning committee. And that committee, although it was mentioned before, cannot be understated, especially in Chatham. Nancy Barr was the chairman from Chatham, Jeff Dykins was on that committee, as was Craig Volke. And we had a little tougher road to hoe in Chatham in convincing our folks that regionalization was the answer. And we were fortunately able to prevail at town meeting in September of 2010. I'm sorry, December 6th of 2010. So we went back 16 months later for funding from both communities. We received overwhelming support for $64.5 million to build this. We've come in at somewhere between around $5.5 million less. We had a groundbreaking on March 3rd, 2013, and now we stand here 17 months later, anticipating enrolling our students in September of 2014, in the next 2 weeks, which was our goal from the start. That's an incredible feat, I believe. As you tour the building after this presentation, you'll see that there's still work to be done, and we're still working on it, but we are ready to open school. We will be ready to open school. There are a few glitches, and I hope you enjoy the tour. I'd now like to introduce the superintendent of our schools, Scott Carpenter.
Thank you, David. You always have to be ready for those open field runs. This morning when I got up, I looked at my iPhone app and it said it was high probability of rain. And so I was preparing that we might have to run into the auditorium for rain, not knowing that we have to run into the auditorium because of sun. But it's glad we're in here. It's a lot cooler here. As Alan and David recounted, after many years, Harwich and Chatham came together, both to save money on their school spending, but more importantly, to create a better school system for their children. One providing more options and opportunities, both inside the classroom and out, for the students to learn, explore interests, and thrive. I'm thankful that Monomoy is blessed with this new high school, and I'm also thankful to a number of people who labored to make regionalization of this high school and today's ribbon cutting a success. Let me be clear about one thing. This building is precast stone, mortar, creative linoleum going down the hallways, decorative tile work, but it creates that physical space for learning. But the brick and mortar alone don't make a school. The vitality of the school comes from those that will cross over the threshold at the beginning of September. Our students and staff will ultimately bring this brick and mortar to life. I'd like to first acknowledge the efforts of our faculty who have laid the foundation to make this new school the vibrant place that will really build Monomoy pride. We set out this year to develop a curriculum that our teachers were personally passionate about, and to have them deliver that curriculum in a manner that will inspire learners. We set out to deliver a great program of studies that our communities could be proud of, and collectively, our faculty delivered a program of studies that I'd argue will rival any small liberal arts college out there. So great job to the faculty. And now I'd like to acknowledge the unsung efforts of a number of folks that toiled all summer long, and that's the Monomoy Regional School District custodial staff. For months, these guys have been moving boxes and teaching supplies and furniture between every single building in this school district as we fully regionalize. And they came in, they even had to come in on a weekend to empty a building that we thought was ready to be torn down. So they put in lots of time above and beyond. They've been deployed and redeployed from building to building, shouldering more than their fair share of the move. And they didn't say, this isn't my building, it's not my job. They modeled what it looks like to come together as a team. And we owe our entire custodial crew a debt of gratitude for having this building ready for the ribbon cutting today. So thanks to them. Finally, I'd like to acknowledge two great women who preceded me, Superintendents Marianne Lanzo and Carolyn Craig. They had the vision and determination to bring together the schools of Chatham and Harwich for the good of the children. It was no easy task, and without their vision and efforts, today would have never happened. So thank you. With that, I'd like to welcome retired Superintendent Carolyn Craig into the podium for a few remarks.
Good morning. Morning. We made it. And first I'd like to congratulate Scott Carpenter on surviving an epic first year as superintendent. When I retired, I knew what he was getting into, but I'm not sure that he did. But he has carried forward the project in an exemplary fashion and has been a pleasure to work with on the occasions that I've had the opportunity. So, congratulations. A wise man, Abraham Lincoln, once said, "The best way to predict your future is to create it." There's always tremendous and justifiable pride in the opening of a new school building. The work of citizens, educators, designers, and builders combining to create an innovative new space to inspire and encourage students is cause enough for celebration. Today, however, the pride of accomplishment transcends the opening of this state-of-the-art building with this gorgeous auditorium. Can't wait for the performances. And represents, in addition, a critical milestone for two communities that work together to create a new educational community with the explicit goal of increasing learning opportunities for students. To deliver the high-quality programs they believe the children of Chatham and Harwich deserve, they put their faith in a future that could only be achieved together. From the earliest discussions in 2008, back in the days of Char, which some of you will remember, the plan and promise of Monomoy has been to expand opportunities in academics, arts, athletics, and activities in facilities that support 21st century learning. In less than 2 weeks, don't panic, folks, when Monomoy High School and Monomoy Middle School welcome Harwich and Chatham students for the first time, the core structural and curricular changes that represent the plan and promise of this new region become real, offering the combined student bodies exciting learning opportunities in exceptional facilities. And that's just the beginning of the story. The Sharks will carry forth the legacies of the Blue Devils and the Rough Riders into a future of even greater successes. Today we celebrate the opening of Monomoy Regional High School, a building based on an excellent model and designed to be uniquely Monomoy. For everyone who contributed to the process that brought us to this day, elected officials, community leaders, committee members, lots of committee members, voters, students, superintendents, administrators, teachers, support staff, consultants, the Massachusetts School Building Authority and the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, Skanska, Mount Vernon Group, and Fontaine Brothers. And I have had the pleasure of working with almost all of them. I thank you for your vision of educational excellence and your commitment to this project. And I congratulate you for working with us to create an exemplary new region and this wonderful new high school. Thank you all.
Next, I'd like to invite Massachusetts Secretary of Education, Matt Malone, to make a few comments.
Today's a beautiful day, and I'm upset we're actually inside. I love looking at that flag sitting there. What a beautiful day. This is a community day, and I bring you the greetings of our governor, Deval Patrick. I travel this Commonwealth and I visit schools every single week. And I can tell you, I have nothing that I wear with more pride than my Monomoy jacket. Now, you can tell I'm not from the Cape. You can tell that from my accent, right? But the other day, I'm wearing my Monomoy jacket in Bourne, and people were looking at me funny. I wear this jacket with pride. Why? It's the newest school system in the Commonwealth. And I came and visited it this past spring. And I thank you for your generosity in giving me that great coat. And I know what it means to be part of a community that has something new and to make them proud of what it means to be a community. And a school will do that for you. I want to thank all of the elected officials that are here today. They do an excellent job of providing public dollars for our public good, the core of our work, public education. I want to thank the building committee. I know you work hard. I want to thank your school committees. But most importantly, I want to thank you teachers. I visited classrooms this past year. Here, well, in the building next door, which was a building. And I also visited the middle school. And I can tell you firsthand how proud I was to see the good work that's happening in your schools. And you can be proud. This system is second to none. You're putting out outstanding graduates, and you have great kids. You guys are the Sharks now. And your logo is special. And your logo is special to me that although before this day I never met with this young woman, but I did serve in the Marine Corps with her father. And my good friend Emma Mon designed that logo. Can we give her a but I know the kind of people you produce. And that is what good systems do. Thank you, and thank you for inviting me today.
Thank you, Secretary Malone. Next, I'd like to invite Congressman Bill Keating of the 9th District of Massachusetts to the microphone.
Thank you, and congratulations to everyone here. You know, in a cave in Valencia, Spain, archaeologists made a discovery. They went into that cave and looked at a mural that was on that wall that they traced back over 10,000 years. And on that mural was a picture of two individuals. And together they had evidently spliced together some twine made of grass and built a ladder. One of the individuals was in the bottom holding that ladder, and the other individual was climbing up, reaching up high to get a harvest of honey. Today, we're celebrating a modern day ladder. A ladder that was built with the toil of work that people did, investing their work and their savings into taxpayer money into making this a reality. And it's a ladder that will produce a much richer harvest than honey. It'll be a harvest of the minds. Young people's minds. Minds that will take us to new discoveries. Minds that will cure diseases. Minds that will seek professions that we don't even know exist right now. Minds that will move our society forward in cultural activities and in the arts. So as we celebrate today's ladder, I want to congratulate all of you, citizens. I want to congratulate the people that are going to hold
the bottom of that ladder sturdy so that young people can go forward, the educators that will teach here, the administrators that will work here. And I want to thank the people of these great communities who came together, volunteering their time, volunteering their own personal resources to make this such a success. I have a citation I won't read because of time from Congress just commemorating today, and I'll give it to your superintendent on behalf of the building committee and all the officials that participated. Thank you very much.
Next, I would like to invite to the podium State Representative Sarah Peake.
I'm her escort.
Dan and I are such a great team together. We thought we'd do this together and maybe save a little time at the same moment. What a great day to celebrate. And I will be brief, just one little story. When I gave my maiden speech in the legislature, which is what the first speech you ever give from the floor is called, a more senior colleague, a wonderful woman, Representative Ellen Story, came up to me because it was about 10 p.m. She said, Sarah, I have one word of advice for you as you go forward to give your maiden speech. I was like, Representative, what's that? She said, brevity. In that spirit, I'll move forward. But I don't want to shortchange the opportunity to celebrate in this moment, to once again congratulate all of the people, and I won't name you again, who brought this project together. No easy task, from the community consensus to the financing of it, to the building of it, and the implementation of it. But most of all, I want to thank each and every member of the Harwich and Chatham communities, the people who took time to listen, who learned, who asked their questions, who truly got on board, and who went to town meeting and voted to make this happen. It was your vision and your courage is the reason that we're here today. So to all of the voters out there, I want to say thank you. This is a great project and one that is going to continue to reap great rewards for us generations into the future. Dan?
As Representative Peake said, and she is a great colleague in the State House, this is a great opportunity to practice what we're not always good at, which is brevity, so I'm going to be very brief. Anyway, welcome and thanks from the Senate. It is rare sometimes to have a project that has so many fingerprints on it that you can't actually distinguish whose fingerprints they are. I would argue this is such a project. I would also say, in a day of much maligned political system, this is what democracy looks like. So from the folks who are educating future generations, from the teachers to the administrators to the elected officials to the Massachusetts School Building Association, Treasurer Grossman, thank you for your support in this. This is a fully functioning political system, giving back to citizens what they give to it. This is how it works. So to you youngsters here, this is what democracy looks like. Don't believe what you're seeing on television. Thank you. It is an honor to be here. We have a
I know there's no shortage of artwork to cover the walls of this beautiful school, but the House has also prepared a citation. And I'd like to give a special shout out to my colleague, Representative Alice Peisch from Wellesley, who is the House Chair of the Joint Committee on Education. And at times, when funding funding formula came into question, when we were looking for grant funding, Alice was there working with me, really behind the scenes, but it was thanks to her vision and her leadership, and she's a part of the success story today. And thank you for making the trip down here to celebrate.
Thank you, Sarah, Dan, and Alice. Next, I would like to invite Meredith Miller with the Cape Light Compact to the podium. The Cape Light Compact is an entity that really, I would say, pushed us as we're looking at this design process to be more efficient, to be more green, and a lot of what you'll see in this building comes out of initiatives like those from the Cape Light Compact.
say what an honor it is for us to be part of this event today, and what an honor it's been to be able to contribute in some way to this momentous project. As part of our efforts, we feel pride in being able to see energy efficiency funds that come from Cape Cod reinvested in this key piece of infrastructure on Cape Cod. And contrary to what many of you might think, making a commitment to energy efficiency is not always the easy choice when you have a project like this. There are a tremendous number of variables, as we've heard about today. So the fact that we had a lot of people in a lot of places committed to energy efficiency made this possible. Not the least of which would be Steve Latwinowich, who early on brought Cape Light Compact to the table, along with National Grid, our partners in energy efficiency, so that we could make sure we had the most comprehensive opportunity for energy efficiency in this building. Another group we want to point out are the team at Mount Vernon, at the Mount Vernon group, who are terrific to work with through this process. And together, we had a partnership that meant through a comprehensive design process, we could integrate significant energy efficiency upgrades in this building. And those are going to save a lot of energy and quite a bit of money. In the electric measures alone are going to save over 500,000 kilowatt hours of electricity every year, as well as contribute to an improved learning environment for the students and teachers in this building. And that's going to translate into about $100,000 a year of operational savings. And that's a really good investment on our part. So the Cape Light Compact wants to congratulate the two towns and the building committee, as well as everyone else involved, for your commitment to energy efficiency, for a job well done. We very much look forward to continuing our partnership after the doors are open with our energy education programs with the teachers and the students of this school. Thank you very much.
Next, I would like to invite State Treasurer and also Chair of the Massachusetts School Building Authority, Steve Grossman, to the podium.
Thank you very much. I move to quote at this point Psalm 118. This is the day the Lord hath made. Be glad in it and rejoice. This is a moment of rededication and renewal for our communities, and a day when we will look back and say, we did something special that was game-changing, that was profoundly important for every citizen of these communities and for generations who will follow. I want to, since teachers have been mentioned more than once, I would just like to ask anybody in this auditorium who is or who has ever been in the teaching profession, I'd like you all to stand and be recognized. We're at a time when teachers often are demeaned and denigrated, and sometimes our political system treats our most important assets in an unwise manner. I've been married to a teacher for 43 years, and we all know that you can build a great building, and this is a great building. You can put phenomenal technology into this building, but unless you have great teachers in each classroom, each and every day, growing, developing, flourishing, and innovating, the rest of it won't work. So thank you to those who are our teachers. And those who I want to just in particular thank Sarah Peake for two things. First, because when Sarah was elected in 2006, she went to work, and as Jack McCarthy, who will follow me, the Executive Director of the Mass School Building Authority, will tell you, it is often the relationship between the Mass School Building Authority and our elected officials that helps move a project along. And whether it's Dan Wolf or Alice Peisch, but in particular in this case, Sarah Peake. She was a warrior for this project. She knew how important this project could be, and she knew that being pioneers in many ways was going to be a game-changing moment for these communities. But I also thank her for something else. We talk a lot about STEM education. We talk about science, technology, engineering, and math, and preparing our students for the innovation economy. But one of Alice and Sarah and Dan's colleagues in the legislature, my state representative actually, a woman named Kay Khan, said, we can do better. STEM is important, but what really matters is STEAM. Science, technology, engineering, and the arts. Think about the TV production room. Think about rooms to store musical instruments. Think about those who sing and dance and paint and draw and create. Think about what it means. And Dan Wolf was so right to talk about what a democracy is all about. What are we trying to create and build? A new generation of citizens who will take our place and will be the innovators of the future. The arts matter in all that. Sarah Peak, early on in her career, was picked by the Speaker of the House to be chair of the Arts and Cultural Tourism Committee. I remember going to Provincetown one day, and she facilitated a wonderful discussion. The governor came. My wife Barbara brought me because my wife Barbara has been for the last 8 years vice chair of the Mass Cultural Council. And I saw the creativity and imagination that Sarah brought to that discussion. And just as we know that the Cape depends enormously on cultural tourism, on the arts, to be a destination, so we know that every one of our schools, if you teach in the arts, if you teach a child to pick up a flute or a paintbrush, I can promise you, all over the state, they're much less likely to pick up a gun or a syringe. The Mass School Building Authority was created 10 years ago. And this is a 10-year project. Ed McManus has every scar to show for those 10 years in which he's involved in this project, as well as many of you do. When the MSBA was created, it was created because the process by which we built and renovated public schools was irrevocably and irretrievably broken. We had made billions of dollars of promises to the people of the state, and we couldn't keep them. And everybody knew it. It was a process that was politically driven, and that's not okay when it comes to funding educational institutions. So the legislature stepped up and said, we're going to create a new institution. And we're going to fund it with 1 penny of the sales tax whenever you make a purchase of any product that is taxable. 1 penny of that sales tax goes into a fund called a SMART Fund. And that SMART Fund goes to build public schools all over the state. New schools, renovated schools, model schools like this one. New roofs, new boilers, new windows. And that SMART Fund has spent, and we have invested, almost $11 billion of state taxpayers' money in public schools all over the state over these last 10 years. And that does not include the monies that the taxpayers of these two communities, Harwich and Chatham, have invested. But you did something more. Because you regionalized, because you decided to go the model school route, because you decided to make this a green school, you received an additional 13 points. 13 points translates into a savings of more than $7 million for the taxpayers of Chatham and Harwich. So this is a big deal, a really big deal. Let me end because I want you to hear from Jack McCarthy, who's my colleague and the Executive Director, CEO of the Mass School Building Authority, with a quote that is one of my favorite. I don't know the author, but the person who wrote this said, if you want to touch the past, you touch a rock. If you want to touch the present, you touch a flower. But if you want to touch the future, you touch the lives of children. And that's what we're doing today, and that's what we will do for generations to come. Congratulations to all of you.
And our final remarks today are from the Massachusetts Building Authority's Executive Director, Jack McCarthy.
It's got to be good afternoon by now, right? I know it's So good afternoon, everybody. Two things. One, when you're near the end, You should see all the crossouts I have, because everyone has said basically what I was going to say. But I just want to say, you know, the treasurer and I, in the form of the MSBA, have given almost $30 million, and you gave Malone a jacket? So this is a beautiful building, and I know it's a beautiful building, even though I've only seen the auditorium, because I've seen Ashland, and I've seen Minichog, and I'm going to see Duxbury either next week or the week after, and these are all models based on the Ashland model. But the one thing I always look forward to when I go visit a model school is the difference. When you walk up to here, you don't see Ashland. You see Chatham and Harwich, you see Monomoy. It's a different building. You know, people were afraid when we came up with the model school program that every school was going to look alike. It was going to be a cookie cutter type building. But as I travel around the state and see all the models, I know that's not true. This has the character of Cape Cod, this building, and I think you'll really enjoy it when you get through the rest of it. It's a 168,000 square foot building for grades 8 through 12, and we're paying just under $30 million of the freight. The treasurer, as he's wanted to do, stole my line about all the great money you guys saved by the decisions that you made on the local level. But one thing I want to do before I leave is, some of the folks from our office, the MSBA, are down here today, and I can't see them, but Greg Burnell, where are you? Greg's over there, and stand up, and Mary McKinney. This is Greg Burnell. Now here taking pictures, Jim Diary, please stand. Jim just told me. I can't do that, okay, sorry. No, Jim just told me he's going to be a dad, and congratulations. You guys, I was going to make a big deal about this, but somebody else already did. And that was the groundbreaking that we had here. I was so moved by the idea of all those students bringing dirt from their home and putting it all together. And that was just, was that you, Carolyn? Was that your idea?
It was a collaboration.
Okay. I mean, I go to a lot of groundbreakings. That was the most moving thing I had ever seen, so congratulations for that. And I think it sends the right message. And you did a great job of your consultants. They've been named. I know I'm the only thing standing between you and the tours right now. So let's get and go see the new home of the Sharks.
And last but not least, or maybe we're saving the best for last, we have Rose Richards, our music director, and the now official Monomoy Regional High School Select Choir.
But how can we say forever?